The best way to describe Gotcha Force is that it's a blend of both custom robo and virtual on that throws the player into a coming-of-age story which follows a young boy known as Kao. Upon meeting G-Red, a toy-sized robot, they decide to team up and tackle the threat of an evil galactic empire that's hell-bent on Earth's destruction. Now, even though the story is about as cliche as it can get, where Gotcha Force shines is within gameplay that's heavily built around customizing a collection of robots built for battle. They've got lasers, swords, cannons, tractor beams, drills, flamethrowers, and just about anything else you can think of. Seriously, the level of freedom when it comes to building your own machine is staggering, and opens up many different styles of play for you to utilize. From up close and personal to hanging back and taking your shots from a safe distance, there's always an opportunity for you to come out on top if you effectively use each and every option at your fingertips. Unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and rainbows though, as while the combat and controls are solid, the camera system is an absolute headache. Instead of allowing you to freely glance about the battlefield, it automatically centers on your robot throughout each fight, which means if you perform a dash attack for example, your view of the action will wildly change, which left me feeling quite disorientated at times. It's not a deal breaker by any means though, and it's rather just something that you'll end up getting used to, but having a system where you are free to look about would have done the game a lot of favors. Despite a few issues, Gotcha Force is still one hell of a game that still to this day can only be found on the Gamecube.
Wave Race Blue Storm kicked off the Gamecube's launch and was a heck of a showpiece for water physics. Much like its predecessor did on the N64, Wave Race Blue Storm gave players more of what they loved about the original. More characters, more tracks, and more weather conditions, while showcasing stunning weather physics that games nowadays still can't seem to capture. Choosing from a cast of characters, each will have their own unique crew member providing feedback during races, whether letting you know of anything to watch out for up ahead or to encourage you. The gameplay remains the same essentially as you weave your way through the course, ensuring you go on the correct side of the buoys, going to the left of yellow ones and to the right of the red ones. Successfully passing these builds up your turbo meter so that you can strategically utilize that to pass racers on the course. Missing one will deplete your meter back to 0 and net you a penalty, but missing 5 of them in a race will disqualify you for that event. Additionally, you will still handle tricks both on the water and in the air, and successfully pulling off these will also build up your turbo meter. Aside from the championship mode, there are also other modes like time trial and trick attack. The trick attack is honestly a blast and gets quite addictive to keep trying to better your score and keep a combo going. If all that wasn't enough, there's the 4-player multiplayer to enjoy with friends and family as well. However, I really can't stress enough the visual aspect of the game. Seeing the various weather effects that the game has is truly a showstopper. Wave Race Blue Storm is an absolute blast and a must-own for the GameCube, and while it was a launch title, it's still one of the more impressive ones on the console.
Chibi Robo is one of the most bizarre but infectiously fun games on the Gamecube that sees you taking on the role of a cute miniature robot whose job is to keep its owners happy. This can be accomplished by listening to their problems, cleaning up their trash, or giving them presents that will earn you happy points that go towards upgrading yourself and your battery life. It's kind of like The Sims in that you're really only doing menial tasks on a daily basis in order to get a promotion of some sort, and while that type of micromanagement can be terribly addicting, on top of cleaning the house there is a lot of exploring to be had, and scattered around the environment are various useful items that require a lot of thought to reach. Luckily, Chibi isn't one to shy away from a challenge, and has the ability to open drawers to use them as steps, as well as a pretty handy hovering ability that allows you to slowly descend from towering heights. To add to the challenge, Chibi has a certain amount of energy that is consumed when you perform an action, and you need to plug yourself in should you run out of battery and save, which creates a nice risk versus reward system for the player to juggle with. The game sports a unique graphical style that feels like cel shading, but is slightly crisper and more defined. The colors are vibrant, and the character models have an intriguing design, and the animation, while usually overly dramatic, is very smooth and entertaining. It doesn't push the system by any means, but it provides a very distinct look it can call its own. Although it did get re-released for the Wii in Japan, unfortunately for us in the West it never left the GameCube, and is quite pricey to get your hands on these days.
Tube Slider is a racing game developed by Cube, which would happen to be the same team that developed F-Zero Maximum Velocity for the Game Boy Advance. Interestingly, this is a game that started off as a pitch for an F-Zero title for the GameCube, but was ultimately turned down. Take the aspect of racing inside a tube, much like certain tracks from F-Zero X and GX, make an entire game about it, and that's Tube Slider in a nutshell. This fast-paced racing game focuses less on cutting corners and worrying about obstacles, and rather tests what lines of the tube tracks you'll try to follow to shave seconds off the clock. You will race others within the championship mode and choose from a few different machines, each with their own unique stats. The tracks themselves, while all tube-based, have a solid amount of depth to them and great visual design that immerses you into the experience. There is a unique boost mechanic where you can choose how to build up your booster meter prior to the race starting, and there will be various items you can acquire that affect the type of boost that you're building up. You can either choose a booster type, which allows you to bank a few single-use boosts, or the turbo type, which you can control how much turbo you use at a time. The game does hold a smooth 60 frames per second, and the techno soundtrack here feels right at home aesthetically. It's not going to dethrone F-Zero by any means, but what is here is unique enough to check out, as it is one that no one talks about. If you're looking for a futuristic racer that has the feel of Wipeout meshed together with some F-Zero elements, then Tube Slider is a good game that remains exclusive on the console. Just be warned, it's gone up in price quite a bit.
Arriving on the GameCube as a launch title way back in 2001, Rogue Squadron 2 would take everything that was impressive about the previous entry and dial it all up to 11. You had more ships, incredible visuals and sound, as well as a lot more missions to undertake that all focus on the first trilogy of films. The basic premise of the game is that you take control of whatever craft is assigned to you for that particular mission and complete the given objectives without losing all of your lives or failing to meet your goals. Fans of the series will no doubt love the extensive range of ships you get to jump into, such as the famous X-Wing, B-Wing, Snowspeeders, and even TIE Fighters throughout the lengthy campaign. As you would expect, each of them come along with their own attributes that make a certain mission either easier or far more challenging if the stakes are stacked up against you. But after you've completed it, you're free to choose whichever ship you'd like to use for any given mission, which increases the replay value immensely, and that's not even mentioning the several unlockables and secrets that'll keep you coming back for more. Now, when judging the game by today's standards, it's so easy to forget just how impressive it looked when it first released. Flying over the Death Star's surface both in the first Death Star run and the second is truly a sight to behold, as gun turrets by the hundreds let loose with lasers from the surface, with only you and your wits to stand against them. Even now it looks gorgeous and stands as a testament to the ability of the developers behind it that managed to squeeze every inch of power out the GameCube. Overall, for any Star Wars fan, this game is a must-have.
Wario World brings our favorite Nintendo anti-hero from the Mario universe and evolves his gameplay from his traditional 2D installments to his first 3D outing focused primarily on him. Developed by the brilliant minds over at Treasure, this 3D platformer has you exploring various stages across 4 worlds in which Wario must find all his lost treasures as well as various other items. Wario has his signature ram attack and butt stomp abilities, but will also be able to utilize a variety of other combat moves as well, whether comboing foes with his fists and head, spinning them around like crazy to throw them across the level, or pile driving them into the ground. Wario's combat fits his persona perfectly in this 3D romp. Throughout levels, you will find trapdoors that contain both puzzle rooms and platforming segments in which you must find red crystals here to advance to the end level's boss. While many of these rooms aren't overly challenging, the later segments in the game will certainly test your skills. As mentioned, there are bosses that await at the end of each stage, and Treasure absolutely nailed this component. Every boss battle feels creative and unique, while utilizing different mechanics on defeating each opponent. Additionally, the visuals are quite beautiful in this game, with great animations and excellent color palettes, while all running at 60 frames per second locked. While Wario World is a game that is on the short side, being one that you can complete in about 6 to 8 hours 100%, it's a blast from start to finish. It's just a shame that Nintendo didn't pursue a sequel with Treasure, still helming it in this style. Still, an absolute hidden gem that remains playable only on the GameCube at this time.
The Mega Man Network series began its run on the Game Boy Advance and provided a different take on the popular platforming franchise. It was essentially an RPG that was split up into two separate worlds, the first being reality and the second being a digital space where you got to explore and fight enemies with your ever-growing arsenal of weapons and abilities. Now, network transmission on the Gamecube effectively transforms the concept of the GBA games and splices them with that of the platforming originals to create something entirely unique. It once again sees you taking on the role of Len from the Network series, and it's mostly classic Mega Man gameplay with the standard running, jumping, ladder climbing, and Mega Buster fans will know and love, only now you get to utilize battle chips ranging from cannons and swords to healing items and temporary armor upgrades that add a lot more meat to the gameplay. There are nearly 140 of these chips to collect, and you gain them by defeating enemies that drop data, which can then be used towards unlocking them. Naturally, because of this system, the game caters to many different styles of play, and collecting all of the chips opens up a ton of options for players to mess about with. This not only increases the replay value for those looking to see everything the game has to offer, but also offers a real sense of freedom when it comes to how the game operates that the previous platforming entries have rarely seen. Overall, Mega Man Network Transmission is by far one of the better Mega Man games out there and would make a fantastic addition to anyone's GameCube collection.
Kirby Air Ride was one of the most unique titles for the iconic Nintendo character. After numerous cancelled titles for Kirby on the GameCube, Masahiro Sakurai and the team at HAL settled on this unorthodox racing title that's part racer, part battle royale, and full-on awesome. Much like previous Kirby games starting with Kirby Superstar, you will have 3 games in one here essentially: Air Ride, Top Ride, and City Trial. Air Ride is the game's core racing mode, and what you would expect to be the meat and bones of the experience. You'll race along various locales that are honestly quite stunning to race along while acquiring abilities and utilizing them against your opponents. Top Ride is essentially a mini-game racing mode that has an overhead view, and you'll race along really small tracks that are ideal for quick bursts in gaming. However, the game's City Trial mode is the real experience that awaits. Essentially a battle royale of sorts, here you will start the mode with almost nothing and have to traverse the city, acquiring abilities to fend off with, as well as stat point upgrades, while also tackling the random events that occur within that time frame. Once the City Trial time is up, you will duke it out in a minigame that utilizes the stat points that you've acquired. What's also incredibly impressive is that the game has absolutely zero loading times. Kirby Air Ride is a game like no other on the GameCube and clearly has a fan base for good reason. Heck, to this day, people with modern GameCubes utilizing the broadband adapter as well as the Dolphin emulator still are playing this online. While many have clamored for a sequel or remaster, the game still remains exclusive on the GameCube and is still very much an essential to add to your library.
Ever since its first release on the Super Nintendo all those years ago, the Mario Kart series has consistently outdone itself with each and every entry, with Double Dash serving up what is, in my opinion, the best it has ever offered. The courses, the items, and the great characters everyone has come to expect are all included, but it's the co-op aspect of the gameplay which really helps Double Dash stand out from the rest. This time around, you have one guy in the back of your kart handling weapons duties, and another racing his way to victory in the front. Scattered across each track are various question blocks that, when rode into, reward you with an item to use on your unsuspecting rivals, but new to this entry was the option of special weapons that are specific to each character you can choose. These weapons are ridiculously overpowered and are really fun to watch if you aren't the victim. Mario and Luigi, for example, will throw out tons of fireballs, while Bowser uses a huge Koopa shell that wreaks havoc, and as a result the races are more chaotic than ever, which makes it perfect to play with a group of friends. Now, apart from the Grand Prix mode, which will take up most of your time, there's also a time trial and battle mode, which allows you to get even more mileage out of the game. It's the perfect mix of single player thrills and multiplayer mayhem, with a generous amount of incentives to keep playing, like new characters, courses, and hidden modes that will likely keep you busy for some time to come. If you can find it on the cheap, then don't hesitate to add Double Dash to your collection, as it's one of the GameCube's best games that has sadly never left it.
Lost Kingdoms is a card-based action RPG from the creative minds over at From Software. Taking control of Princess Katia, the Kingdom of Arguil has been shrouded in black fog, and people have gone missing due to this. Equipping the Runestone, Katia has the ability to summon creatures via cards that she will carry with her. The game is segmented into a linear mission structure which you will access via the world map. Before tackling missions, you will need to customize your deck of cards, as there is a level of strategy to note here. You can carry up to 30 cards in a deck and have 4 on the ready each mapped with one of the face buttons. There will be different attack type cards, as well as elemental effects, and learning these are the key to success within battle. These can range from sword-based attacks to creatures that join on the battlefield for a longer duration to spell-based attacks. Battles will happen at random, and the game will close off the area of battle right from where you are. However, should you run out of cards from your deck in a mission, Katya will be at a severe disadvantage as she cannot fend for herself against these creatures. Thankfully, there are deck points within missions which can replenish your health and allow you to equip additionally found cards from that level. It's a very engaging premise that has a bit of a learning curve, but once you grasp it, it will be hard to put down. While the game does play from an isometric perspective, it does run at a smooth 60 frames per second, minus some dips here and there within the combat, and the soundtrack does a good job of capturing the game's setting. If you're looking for something truly unique for the GameCube and are curious to see From Software's earlier efforts, Lost Kingdoms won't disappoint you once you learn its mechanics. And to this day, both Lost Kingdoms 1 and 2 remain exclusive on the GameCube.
Well, that does it for today's video. Keep an eye out for part 3 as that will be coming up soon. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified about new videos that release every Monday and Thursday. You can follow me on all of the socials which are linked below to stay up to date, and also join my growing community on Discord to meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation with. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters Rhino, Skilljim, Shuden, Richard, Amy, Daniel, Dio, Omar, Strider, Pierre, Carl, Awesome Jacket Dude, Maximus, Scott, Alfred, Terry, Ryan, Alex, GameCube Galaxy, Curtis Salaryman, Fake, and Paddy J for their continued support that helps make these videos possible. If you're interested in joining my Discord or supporting the channel through Patreon, you'll find all of these links down below. As always, thanks for taking the time to check the video out. I'll catch you next time.